Everyone, this is Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor. It is August 2019, and I've actually never made a video, one of these welcome videos, and why you guys should check out my channel, because there's a ton of reasons you should check out my channel, particularly if you want hard-hitting news when it comes to geopolitics, finance, economics, and crypto. And really, if you take a look at some of the calls that I've made and really the zeitgeist and awareness that I've had, I'm not sure if there's another person on the planet that has really been able to call things, particularly the past 2 years, in the way that I've called that, which I know that sounds like an incredibly arrogant thing to say, and that if I can't back that up, then you guys should just leave right now. So I am here to tell you that I can back that up. If you guys stick around, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. So let's start and kind of get into a little bit about who I am. I'm a certified financial planner. I've had that basically since the age of 25. In 2008, I was running my school's endowment fund right before everything collapsed. Student managed investment fund had the entire financial section in cash, because that was actually the section that I was running. So 2008's crash, we ended up being very unaffected by that. But I actually started my career the day the market crashed, because the group that inherited the fund that I was running, they ended up getting sort of all the credit on that. But even from a geopolitical sense, which probably, this is probably more of the juice right here, is I thought Trump was going to win, or had a very good shot at winning. I was, Ron Paul, libertarian, said I would never vote Republican again after seeing the bamboozling, but couldn't stand Hillary Clinton so much, just absolutely hated her, that I decided, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can and go towards the go away from the Libertarian Party, because you got guys like Bill Weldon there talking about how handguns are more dangerous than AR-15s and how we need to limit
of mass destruction. The problem of handguns is probably even worse than the problem of the AR-15.
Guns. After that, I was like, you know what, I'm creating my own page. Created a Liberty Advisor Facebook page. First it was Libertarian Advisor. Then when I got pissed off the Libertarian Party again, switched to Liberty Advisor. And then, basically, things ended up exploding. Within 2 months, had over 30,000 people following me. Still have less people following me today than I did 2 years ago. Part of that is because I was so on point with so many things that I got the shadow ban immediately. And the shadow ban came on November 17th, 2016, when I had a fake news list go viral, which that was before anybody was using the term fake news on at least someone that wasn't a communist. So what I'm claiming is to have the zeitgeist of just knowing that that was going to be a thing and hijacking that from the left and then pointing it back. And not only did I have a fake news list, which was exactly what it was called, with 30, 40 different names on there, like Snopes, Mother Jones, CNN, of course. I even wrote most of Fox News in there. I listed one person by name. That one person was Paul Krugman. And wouldn't you know, Paul Krugman, a year and a half later, then even won Trump's award for most fake news. But then I didn't even stop there. If you back it up, a month before that, in September of 2016, had a 2-minute long video where I said, listen, the Clintons always accuse their basically their opponents of doing stuff that they are guilty of, and what they are guilty of is Russian collusion. And when you watch that, if Trump ends up miraculously winning, that they are going to use Russian collusion on him. That was 2 months before the election. I can go, I'll probably link that right below. Rule number 1 in the Clinton playbook is whatever you're doing, you need to accuse your opponent of doing the same thing. The prime example of this is that in the case of the Clinton Foundation, they received upwards of $145 million from donations that were connected to the Russian state energy conglomerate known as Uranium One and its shareholders. Also, from the financial side of things, what I thought was going to happen is that I made a presentation in January of 2017, right after Trump was elected, right before he was going to be inaugurated, called The Trump Effect and Why Good News is Bad News. And I did have those in air quotes. And what I thought was going to happen is that there was going to be a whole lot of good news relative to if Hillary was in there, and then that good news would then lead to the stock market going up. The stock market going up would then lead to the Federal Reserve not having any more excuses to not cut rates anymore. I have a presentation called The Trump Effect and Why Good News, in quotes, is Bad News. And again, I know that all the financial data is rigged. I just wrote a book on how it's rigged, so I'm just going off the headline numbers that we talk about. But what I mean by that is there's a lot of good data that is coming out. And so when there's good data, the Fed is going to have less cover to not raise rates. And so when you raise rates, that's going to lead to the bad news. Now, again, there's two sides of every coin here, but I only have 20 minutes, so we're not going to get into every little detail. So the bad news is that when the Fed raises rates, that the bigger the bubble you have, the smaller the pin you need to pop that bubble. So what we have here is, in the green line, we have the S&P 500. And then from there, the rates going up would then lead to this whole perfect storm of things that I said was going to happen between October and December. I've got plenty of proof in that. If you watch an 8-minute podcast called The Perfect Storm, I've got just a ton of them all throughout 2018, pinpointing October through December as the period of when everything would come out.
What I want to get into now are some of the potential black swans that I see out there in the economy, and there's really, I think, a few of these that are really kind of coalescing all at really the perfect time to absolutely, put the final nails in this coffin. Now, number one is the U.S. Federal Reserve System, which, it's nothing U.S. about it or nothing federal about it. It's not reserving anything, whole nother topic. But they are set to sell off $600 billion off their balance sheet next year. Dollars of new treasury bills. Well, who are buying our treasury bills? I mean, currently you've got, the Bank of Japan, who are the biggest owners. Well, the Bank of Japan or the Japanese are one of the most indebted people in the world, or potentially the most indebted, at a debt to GDP of over 200. And then you've got, the Chinese. Well, they haven't really been adding too much to their positions. You got the Federal Reserve, who actually is the top buyer, and they're actually now going to be the top seller. You've got the Europeans, who are completely broke, and this is really parlaying into the next leg of this perfect storm, where the European Central Bank, or ECB, come December, they're supposed to stop their bond buying purchases, and you've got people.
So there it was. That was August 2018. I was saying that look for October is when the Federal Reserve is going to start ratcheting up their quantitative tightening program. And then also mentioned that December was the time that the Europeans were going to stop their quantitative easing, aka money printing. So I pinpointed October through December, and what do we have happen? We had one of the worst Decembers ever. It was the worst December since the Great Depression, and it was actually the 11th worst month over the last 50 years. So since before I've even been alive, we're talking that this was one of the worst months ever, and here I am predicting the exact time frame of when it was happening. But if you pay attention to all this stuff, it's not that crazy of a prediction. What's crazy is that nobody else can see this, and I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. It's to show you guys that this is a reason that you might want to pay attention to what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't know who I am, but I've been dead on a lot of this stuff. And now we're going to talk about how what is going to happen with the Federal Reserve's balance sheet shrinking, and how just a tiny bit of shrinking has already caused a massive amount of chaos. Now what we've seen is basically right after the December market rout that the Federal Reserve had to backtrack on everything, when they should have just fired every economist they have there. They should have fired every White House advisor, and just take a look at my podcast. It's out there for free. It would probably save the government tens of millions of dollars by getting rid of all their economists. But anyways, back to the video.
To sell off, this is like a 600-pound person that loses 5 pounds, and all of a sudden now they're saying that if they lose another pound, they're going to die. I mean, we've seen a doubling of interest rates from, some of it's, yes, some of it's to do with the Fed, but some of it also is to do with just the fact that the market is demanding higher interest rates. So you're seeing, a doubling of interest rates when effectively we've taken the balance sheet from 4.4 trillion all the way down to 4.4 trillion and change, or it might be 4.39, or it's up there. It's something I
had a video October 3rd that I made originally for clients, later came out with a podcast, where basically it was the day before Jerome Powell said we're on autopilot, where I called BS on basically something he hadn't even said yet, and then came out with a...
Hello everyone, it's Tuesday, October 16th, and welcome to the Liberty Advisor Podcast. Today in the podcast, what we're going to do is actually, I'm going to go over a client video that I made on October 2nd, 2018. It's important to keep that date in mind, because that is actually the day before the stock market went down. And what I did is I made a video, half an hour long, detailing the various reasons why I thought there was a perfect storm brewing for the interest rates to go up, which would ultimately pop a bubble in the stock market. And so this is information that is absolutely vital, especially if you're close to retirement, especially if you have lots of bonds in your retirement, or if you're trying to be on the sidelines and play it safe. We've got different ways at Innovative Advisory Group where we can help protect people from what's going on, whether the market ends up, whether the Fed, they could start printing money again, and all of a sudden the market could go to infinity. And we've got, basically a way to hedge against that. And if the market absolutely collapses, we use put options to help protect the downside, to help protect against that. So if you're sitting heavy in bonds, or maybe you're sitting heavy in cash, or if you're sitting heavy in stocks, we think we've got a better way to do this. Everyone's insulate you from a lot of the devastation that could occur, And we're really with the new strategy that we're running over here at Innovative Advisory Group, where, if the market ends up crashing, then in many cases, you guys have put options, which would insulate you from a lot of the devastation that could occur to many of your friends and family who aren't in these types of strategies. And a lot of you also who are in retirement or close to retirement have different guaranteed income strategies as well, whether it's annuities mixed with, pensions mixed with Social Security. So we've already done the planning on that. And so if that's all you want to hear, I would tune off now, and that's really all you really need to know. But in terms of getting into, I guess, more of the details of really what I see going on, and again, I'm not looking at notes, not scripted, but do have some tabs open.
Client video, December 28th, called When's the Next Rate Cut? You guys can actually find that. It was posted later as a podcast in January. And so I have been on top of all.
What they're doing is with Trump right now, they've got the perfect fall guy for this. And there's, several different ways that, all of this really could, could shake out what's going on right now. I mean, I think that, one of the scenarios is the Fed says, hey, we're wrong. We're, it's only a matter of time before, we're going to start lowering rates again. And that I would suspect would make the markets go back up, even though they're basically saying that things aren't going good. So it's this whole bad news is good news, and now good news is bad news. I mean, sort of a weird dichotomy that we're in right now. But, and then the other thing that could happen to really kind of get us out of this is all of a sudden the Fed says, hey, we're going to print, $10 trillion to, save us, or another central bank prints a whole bunch of money, and that could save stocks as well. Even though the bigger enchilada is probably what's going on in the bond market. I mean, the credit markets are freezing up right now. And that's a much bigger concern to me. And that's sort of, to people that aren't really in the market, they're not paying attention to that as much. But the credit market is much bigger than the stock market.
All this stuff more than almost anybody. I've been saying things that aren't popular, been saying things. If I would have, just rode on to Trump's coattails the whole way, I would be 10,000 times more popular than I am right now, absent the shadow banning. But I've never made a video like this. And so I hope you guys, can trust that, basically I'm a guy who is able to see things from a geopolitical sense, marry that to the financial sense, and then also the bias that I have is a bias towards liberty. It's a bias towards freedom. Being one of the people that helped, coin the term fake news. Obviously, it didn't go viral because of me. It's just showing that I was on the zeitgeist of seeing where things are going is really the main point of that. But if you got, and even on the crypto side of things, I was trying to get people to sell their crypto in January of 2018. I went on Jeff Berwick's Anarchast talking to anarchists, which, I consider myself a voluntarist, leave me alone-ist. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want you to tell me what to do. But I was trying to convince that crowd, which is, which I consider my crowd too, to sell their Bitcoin when it was at the very top. And we've got videos of that as well.
Moment in time, it is early January 2018, recording this video. Actually, Tim will also be at Anarchapulco, and he'll also be speaking at the Dollar Vigilante Summit, because this is quite important information. So to generally summarize, basically he has ways, and you can move a lot of your crypto assets into things like trusts, and in that way avoid a lot of the extortion, all legally. But in the meantime, you might be this 50-year-old man or woman who's got a family, and you don't really want to be kidnapped, and you want to be careful. I understand that, so that's why I've got Tim on. So Tim, great to be on with you, and thanks for coming on. And
a good friend of mine, Tim Picciott, he's a financial advisor at Scottsdale. He'll be speaking at the TDD event. You'll be able to bring the crypto into the system. How would you be able to do a foundation, a trust, a this, a that, and so on? And well, Tim was at the party, and I go, Tim, what up? He's been spending months that he's getting ready to present to you guys Monday on how you can take your crypto and not pay capital gains on it, not have taxes on it. I'm going, man, you need to talk to Tim, okay?
Unfortunately, no one took me up on it. But, I was prescient in that too, because back in August of 2017, I was coming up with strategies for people who got rich off Bitcoin of how they could sell their Bitcoin into special types of trust and legally avoid taxation. Also had IRA strategies for people as well, and I started working on this about 2.5 months before everything started exploding. So even had my eye on that as well. Started pumping out content, talking basically when crypto was in its absolute depths of early, I guess late last year, early this year being 2019, and coming out with podcasts titled is Bitcoin or Bitcoin's dead, when really the whole thing was about, hey, listen, this is not dead. These are all the reasons why.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, November 26, 2018, and you are listening to the Crypto Wealth Advisor Podcast, episode number 1. That's right. We're still going to house these underneath the Liberty Advisor podcast, but there's a ton of people out there who could probably care less about crypto. In which case, you can just tune off right now, and 10 years from now, you'll probably kick yourself for wondering how come you weren't paying attention back then.
You guys should be interested. But anyways, I hope that this was enough to help captivate at least some of your imagination. If I didn't already do it, what we'll do is have some links in here of some of the proof of things that I have said in the past, because I know this is fantastical and anyone can just make these claims.
So when I made this video, this was actually just a practice video because I was having a really hard time trying to put this together. I've been procrastinating on this for probably well over a year. But one of the things I did leave out on this was my predicting that the volatility index was the worst thing that you could possibly do. I made that prediction on January 25th, 2018 on the Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock show. Now, Ernest Hancock is the guy who created the Ron Paul Revolution logo, also had the first Ron Paul meetup group at his house. I mean, I'm on his show pretty much bi-weekly, only because I don't have the time to do it weekly. And now I'm going to leave you with the clip. But just remember, within 2 weeks of me saying this, you had multiple funds, I think it was 2 or 3 of them, that actually blew up. I had a client who had some money with me, most of her money with me, some money with another advisor. That other advisor had her money into this particular fund, and she lost all of her money in that fund. And here I am saying that the worst thing you do is bet against the VIX, and this is January 25th, 2018, because at the time, the complacency was everywhere.
VIX is just your side bet on what the weather's going to be. What the hell is the Fed doing in that?
I mean, if you ask me what are the 2 worst investments you could have long-term, I would probably say short the VIX and long-term treasury bonds. Now, look at what the Federal Reserve has. Supposedly, they're short the VIX, and they have long-term treasury bonds. I mean, it's like they're the worst-run hedge fund in the world, except they have such clout with $4.4 trillion that their clout then distorts everything else. So a lot of the things that, guys like myself and Peter Schiff have been talking about, and yourself have been talking about for a while that are going to happen, a lot of the reason why it's been delayed is because they're in there with their trillions of dollars effing everything up and distorting things, because we don't have a free market right now. A free market doesn't have a Federal Reserve System. A free market doesn't have, a smart, these guys that go into a room and set interest rates. Because I'm smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough to be able to set in interest rates. It should be the market that sets it.
I want to give you the circumstances. Having gone through.
You're getting a guy right now who's telling you the honest truth from what he believes it, from a guy that just spends tons of time reading this news, buried in the news. But now what I realize that the best chance of eliminating basically central banks and the state is promoting crypto. So I talk a little bit more about crypto than I would normally. So I don't talk as much about the actual politics. I'll probably do more of that as the election starts rolling around. But if you guys want a great place to get high-level economic news that basically has been more right than anybody, which is not saying a lot because everybody else has been super wrong. Even if you take a look at guys like Jeff Gundlach, who is known as the Bond King, and he had interviews in December where he was saying stuff that I was saying a year ago, except nobody knows me. So this is my right now outlet to the world to let you guys know that I exist. And so thank you. Please hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, whatever button that lets you guys get in on this. And also, move away from YouTube, move away from Facebook. Catch me on dlive.tv/ I believe it's Liberty Advisor or The Liberty Advisor. But you can find all this stuff at thelibertyadvisor.com. And if you go / show links, you're going to get all the different places you can catch me at. Also now we started using flote.app, flote.app, Twitch, so all sorts of ways where you guys can get live streaming access. We also have different codes you can put in and dial in through your phone to get. One of them is the book that I wrote called How It's Rigged. Just tons of goodies for you guys. But anyways, thank you for listening. Hope you guys keep watching, and thank you so much. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, things I should do better, please let me know. But thank you so much, and hope you guys subscribe. Thank you.